Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Veteran Series by Fantasy Football Hub. So in the previous videos in this series, we met Adam Hopcroft and got to know a bit about his impressive fantasy football history. If you missed it, the links are in the description below. In this video, we are going to learn how fantasy football affects Adam in his everyday life. So Adam, firstly, everyone who kind of knows you knows that stats, are a massive part of how you play the game. How much do you think stats play a part in your fantasy decisions?
I think they play a big part. I always, for me, the eye test is probably the thing that drives my decision the most.
Yeah.
But you can't watch every game, and even the games that I watch, I will follow up and look at the stats.
Yeah.
I think the stats that I typically look at are probably the most the things that tend to get overlooked. And I think what I would say, the Hub have done a great job with this. So the things that I like the most are looking at points per match. Expected points per match are quite good, and expected points overall, which the Hub have done. And I think they're great tools. And I think you can also, on the Hub, you can look at the number of points they've got, the points they've got home and away, points they've got versus certain teams. And I think for me, that particularly when you've got, I think particularly for the second half of the season, the first half is quite difficult because things are starting to, to level out. But I think the second half of the season, you get some really, really good data. And I think I in previous videos, and I think one of the things I've always talked about in the community is having that, how do people perform against certain teams? Almost that, who are the full track, who are the bullies that will go out against the bottom sides and get big scores. And a lot of my analysis and data is around that, rather than obsessing with XG and other things. It's about actually what has happened and how many points do these people tend to score? What is their points per match? What is their points per match versus certain opposition? So I think that for me is data that I find more interesting and more relevant. I think XG is fine, but I think it's very difficult to predict whether people are overperform or underperform, particularly in a short time frame.
Yeah,
I think it's more valid over a longer time frame.
Yeah.
So for me, I think form is so important. I think form is, again, something really, really overlooked. And I think what you'll tend to find is that, a player that's high and confident will score 4 goals in 3 games. And, so which I think, so they're the sort of things that I tend to look at. I don't, I went for a point when I was overly looking at absolutely everything. Yeah. And then you realize that actually, it doesn't, you can go into loads and loads of detail, but to get the full picture, you don't need that.
And the whole thing with football and why we love football so much is that you just can't predict what's going to happen. Yeah. And, you can put, I think, elite managers like yourself can put yourself in a position where maybe you narrow down the probabilities a little bit. But in terms of football, and the reason why it's such an amazing sport, why everyone loves it, and why FPL is such a diverse and a popular game, and why anyone can do well at FPL as well, is because we just don't know what's going to happen. You can captain Aguero at home to Brighton, and he could get sent off in the first minute, right? Or he could score 4 goals. It's just
exactly right. And I think stats, they play a part, but the thing that I've learned, don't get overly obsessed with them. And we talked earlier about points that people make on Twitter is because so and so's underperforming their XG, they're going to get a hat trick next game. Yeah. That's not really, it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
Like you said, football, you can look at, that might mean they have a better chance of getting quality chances against that. But that, if they keep missing them, or they're low on confidence because they keep missing chances, Benteke is a great example of that. Then,
that's right. Yeah.
Then it means nothing. So I think, stats play a key part, but you just got to, they've just got to form part of the picture, not dominate everything.
So talking about being obsessed with things, then Adam, how obsessed are you with fantasy football?
I think what I would say is that I went through a spell where it was literally an obsession. And I think I've moved through that now, because I think it's what I think then it probably accelerated most when I joined Twitter, and then you're on Twitter and you're getting everything thrown in your face all the time. You're seeing everything. You're constantly checking your phone. And I think I went for a spell when I joined Twitter, and probably it peaked. It was definitely last season more so than this season, where I was obsessed. I was on my phone every 2 seconds, checking for news that could come in, which in reality, except for 11:15 on a Saturday morning when we might get the team news, what is really going to happen in those 2 seconds that I can't check in? And it was getting really, really bad, and I'd literally I couldn't sit for 2 minutes without checking my phone, and I think that affected the relationships I had with people. It affected particularly at home. I'd get very frustrated when things didn't go my own way, and you're always blaming other people for, because your player's been sent off, and it's like, what? And then I think looking back at it, you realise, how much. So there's so much of it, like you just mentioned, that is out of your control.
Absolutely.
And I think now I'm at a point now where I can laugh and joke about it. If some, I think a really good example is that Mane triple captain thing.
Exactly.
I honestly couldn't care. I couldn't care. I didn't bother me in the slightest. Of course, I would have preferred him to Hall, but I was like, that is just typical. Couldn't have predicted it. I don't think anybody predicted it in the build-up. Similar things with the Arsenal Man City game when that was called off because of coronavirus.
Incredible.
It's just stuff like that you can't predict. So don't. You'll benefit from some. I benefited from that. I didn't benefit from Mane. The swings and roundabouts, and I think the sooner you can realise that a lot of it will be out of your control, what you've got to master is the decision-making process. And I think where I've gone wrong is I've been of the opinion that if I keep checking things, if I keep looking at stuff, I'm going to get more knowledge and make more informed decisions. But actually, that is probably the opposite. I think there's something where you can do too much of something that you become unproductive. And I think I definitely have had that over the last 18 months where I've been checking stuff. You don't become clear on what your opinion is.
Yeah,
you become too immersed in, you become too immersed in the data, too immersed in everything, that everything becomes clouded, and it's very, very difficult to, and I think what I'm trying to do and what I will take into next season and what I've seen this opportunity with what's happened now is I've actually stepped away completely from fantasy football, from to take a break and reassess. I haven't done, and I think the stuff that Andy Martin and the guys done around Championship Manager looks brilliant. And it was my era as well. I probably should have got involved, but I think I've used it as an opportunity just to step away from fantasy football, step away from my phone a little bit, and actually enjoy other things in life. And I think it's helped. And I think when I go back and when we go back to it, I think I can get away with, an hour a day or whatever it would be, or an hour and a half. Whereas it was literally every opportunity. I would get into work early so I could look at, have an hour quickly looking at Twitter, doing all these things. Lunchtime would be that. After work in the evenings, I'd stay up to midnight doing everything, posting things on Twitter, looking at, and it takes over your life. And actually, there were some good things and some good opportunities that come off the back of it.
Of course.
But I didn't need to be as obsessed. I didn't need to be checking, and I think things like the Match of the Day challenge have probably come out really to say to people, you can actually have a good life and actually have fun without being obsessed with football. The other thing, and we talked about this before we recorded, about the enjoyment of football.
Yeah.
I found the game that I enjoyed most last season was a game where I had very little FPL involvement. I think it was Man City versus Liverpool when City beat them 2-1. It was maybe the round about the turn of the year. But I didn't pick my phone up once in the whole game. And I think one thing that I want to try and do is, if I'm watching football, not be half watching it, half from my phone. Yeah. Enjoy it, watch it. Look, I've been guilty at Villa Park doing that, where when the gate's gone quiet, I've been checking scores, and actually, do you know what? I think I need to move away from that and just enjoy the moment, enjoy and actually you see a lot more. And I think that'll be, there's a few things that I want to work on and want to change, but actually I think I'll do better next season and enjoy it more if I spend less time. But when I do spend time, it's a bit more focused time. It's a bit more, I'm going to research this. I'm going to, and obviously being involved in the podcast has been brilliant, and it gives you the opportunity to talk out loud your thoughts and debate it. And I've thoroughly enjoyed that. And I quite like the interaction that, the debates that we have. So I think I've definitely been obsessed. Hopefully I don't think obsession is healthy. I really don't. And I've definitely been at the stage where I think I've been too obsessed that it hasn't been healthy, and it would have affected, my mental health, interactions with people. And I think hopefully, I think I'll be at a stage next season where it won't be an obsession. It'll be a fun game that I play, which is a hobby, and that's what I want it to be. Yeah. I want it to be a part of my life, not take over my life. And I think because it's that enjoyment factor that I think is really important. And we all crave those moments when a differential scores a goal and gives us a big boost at the ranks. But the reality is that doesn't happen that often.
It doesn't happen very often. You're right, mate. Yeah,
it doesn't. So you've got to be able to, if that's all you're relying on to get fun out of life and all of that, then the majority of the time you're going to be angry, annoyed about 59-minute substitutions, red cards, own goals, VAR decisions. I think with VAR this season, actually, one blessing it has had for me, I think, is it's probably emphasised the luck factor, and it's meant that because I was a bit frustrated at the start with decisions, and then, do you know what? Now I'm like, it could happen, it can't. Let's see. And it's been trying to be a bit more. It's out of my control. Let's see what the idiots at Stockley Park do now. But it's do you know what I think. What I hope for next season is just to be able to enjoy football and not be obsessed with it. Yeah.
No, I think. But sorry, but you finish off. Sorry, go on.
No, that's not finished. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I can completely relate. I think from my own experience, I think we got very similar backgrounds. In terms of works league, winning your works leagues, and then you kind of. You find a community, move up a level. I went on FISA, which was, a very, very big online community. And then you find actually that you're not the best. You're not, you're kind of not the bee's knees. You move up a level. You see, more and more and get more and more involved with it. And I think for me, it was roughly about 18 months ago. I got up into the top 100 on FPL, and that was playing the way I play the game, which is very much I look at the things which matter to me and I make decisions off the back of that. And I remember the point when I got to 78th in the world 18 months ago, and I remember the very moment where it was like, right, I need to start defending my lead now, right? And ever since that point, and I'm not exaggerating, right? So I've been having like green arrows, right, for like 6 seasons up until that point, and gradually getting better, like 11k, 10k, 11k, wherever, and I was up in that top 100, and I burst out defending. Ever since then. So if that's roughly, 52 odd game weeks, right? Since then, like a season and a half worth of games, roughly. I think probably out of those 52 game weeks, I would be very surprised if I've had more than 10 or 11 green arrows, and it's purely because I'm on the mindset of thinking, all right, who is everyone else brought? Who does everyone else think is the best player? Who is this essential player? Who's the safest captain? Safe. And you know what? It has absolutely ruined my FPL game and other fantasy games as well.
You're spot on. Everyone talks about, you are competing with other people, but the biggest competitor in FPL is yourself. Absolutely. I think, and it's that mindset and actually sticking to your plan in your own game and knowing you're doing it for enjoyment and not worrying about other people. You can't control them. And I think that's such a good point. interestingly, I put a lot less time into the Sky game, and it's not because I think it's a worse game at all. I actually enjoy the game. It's just because the amount of a lot of my followers are more FPL focused, and actually I've been doing it longer, and I want to try and get the best finishes. But I put less time into it. My first season in Sky was last season, and I finished 53rd, and at one point I was 12th. And maybe if I'd have had a bit more experience, I would have done things differently looking back at it. But it goes to show it's not about putting loads and loads of time in, obsessing over everything. You need to make calculated and informed decisions. And I think if you think about it, every week you will make a transfer, or you will make a transfer decision. You'll make a captaincy decision, and then you may have a bench decision. And I think the more you cloud your judgment, and the more that you're thinking and obsessing about it, the work, you're more likely to make bad decisions. So the thing you really need to work on is your decision making process. Yeah, these are the 3 decisions I need to make this week. How can I make them best? What do I need to research? And how am I going to decide it? And I think if you can do that with a clear mind at the start of the week, and keep bringing yourself back to that, because there will always be other things that happen. There will also be external influences. If you keep bringing yourself back to that, and you're comfortable that it falls in your decision matrix, then at least there's some logic to it. Yeah. But then we're human, and the emotional factor and can take over.
Yeah, definitely. And then because you've made a decision based on your theory rather than just an emotional, even worse, copying someone else. When it doesn't pay off, then, which is the majority of the time, if you all right, you may have a couple of game weeks on the trot where you like smash a captain, right? But over 38 game weeks, you're just not going to do that year on year. You could even do it for a few game weeks, or even for one season, right, where everything clicks and everything goes right. But there's not one person. Maybe Matthew Jones, of the Hubber side, and maybe Rich Clark, who have got that just exceptional record of like 10, 11 seasons where they are constantly in the top, the top 1,000, or 10 or whatever, and that it doesn't ruin your weekend because, I noticed it at home with my family as well. If I have a bad day in the 3 o'clocks, or, my captain doesn't fire, in the 5:30, and I've come to realise this over the last year or two, is that I'm a different person in the evening at home with my family, with my kids. Not that I, shout and scream or whatever else, but just maybe I'm a bit quieter, or maybe I'm a bit less, involved with them. But if my captain bangs, I'm like, let's go to the back, kids. Let's get the party poppers out on the trampoline.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's funny. But thanks for being, so honest and frank, and I'm sure this video will resonate with a lot of people, and maybe even help some, right? In terms of just those who find themselves in a similar position where you're not actually enjoying the game, because that is what it's all about, right? Is enjoying the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay, so in the last video then in this series, we will be asking Adam for his fantasy football tips and advice, as well as putting him on the spot in a quickfire A or B round. The link is in the description below.